Productions. Welcome to my channel. So here I am out of work today and it is about 5:20. I am driving home and we have lots of snow today, guys. We've been having freezing temperatures. This morning I think it was about 14 degrees when I got up and warmed up the truck. So really cold, guys, and it might stick. I'm hoping it'll stick because I think we're expecting at least 3 more days of freezing temperatures, but we do have a lot of snow going on right now. I will flip the camera in a little bit so you can see what that looks like. And let's see, I will include a clip from the ridge this morning. There was some water coming down on the gullies, but I don't know if you can see it in the camera. I don't know if the camera captured it, but I thought it was pretty cool. I don't think I'll make it in time to catch some more footage for this afternoon, but remember, guys, the slide is still moving and you're going to hear Bill talk a little bit about that. Greatly appreciate everybody coming by. I tried doing live streaming this weekend, and most of you guys did get to see that. It was a cool experience. I will do more practicing on that because it was fun. Really appreciate you guys coming by, commenting, and liking. Thank you very much, Maria, and everybody else who's coming by. Wow, this is a snowy day. It's really nice. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have late start. That would be nice. Okay, let's see what else. Within reason, you're awesome. Thank you for staying along with us. Everybody else, you've been great. I do want to report that this over the weekend, it was in the news that cougars were sighted, or warning people to beware that 2 cougars may be around a Tandem Road. So this is a country road that goes out towards Tampico, and it's a forest up on top, but pretty freaky. If you guys live here, be careful. Let's see, I think that's it for now. Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you very much. This is Cindy with EZC Productions. Stay tuned if you want to see a clip from my geologist. And we will post maybe sometime this week. Oh, I do want to say that I am getting a better camera tomorrow, guys. I'm really excited. I'm going to put that to the test and see what the images look like. I am waiting for an Olympus mirrorless camera, so that's really exciting news. And I think that's it. I might do an unboxing of this camera because it's really nice. Thank you guys very much for staying with us. This is Cindy with EZC Productions. I do want to include you guys that I've been thinking about getting another car. The car that I have is a Prius, and I have a truck. I have a Ridgeline, but I want to trade in the Prius for something else. The reason I got the Prius is because it's supposed to be gas efficient, and I love the technology. It's like a really smart car, but I need to trade up. So I would love to get another truck, or a Jeep. I love the Jeeps. Jeeps are awesome. But I'm not sure yet. I love Subarus, but I was told that they have problems, and I'm not sure. So if you guys, I guess this is what we'll do. What do you guys see me driving? How about that? Let me throw that out there. What kind of car do you guys see me driving? All right. So give that a minute. And yes, guys, I haven't changed my wipers. I actually went to go visit, what company was it? It was a store. I went to go visit, I think it was O'Reilly's, and they recommended I go and buy Costco wipers. And I just haven't had time to go in and buy Costco wipers. So please excuse my wipers. All right, so remember guys, question of the day: what car do you see me driving? What automobile? What vehicle? So it could be a sedan, it could be pickup, any kind of vehicle. I'm excited and interested to see what you guys think. Okay, so stay tuned. Let's see what I can see up ahead in the ridge, at the ridge. I do want to mention that there's concern for the fruit trees, guys. These freezing temperatures are not helping.
Good day, everyone. Thanks again for stopping by. Many pardons for the absence, but field work calls and I must respond. But anyway, just wanted to take some time to relook at everything, maybe review a little bit, answer some comments that have been coming in, maybe just review some of the basic principles of what we're looking at here. And just to start, we're looking at one of Cindy's very, very fine pictures here of the quarry face on the 16th. And I think, as the third-party report tended to allude to, what we're seeing certainly in the front part of the head wall here is what that would be called. We do see some talus slopes starting to form. I don't see a great deal of movement in this in the middle section here. However, yes, I mean, as I'm pointing over here to the eastern scarp, we do see a little bit more movement, no question about it. The scarp, as it's called, does seem to be depressing a little more than normal. Ever so slightly. I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference in that, but yes, we are still moving, obviously, so we are going to see some movement. But I just wanted to point out that essentially the only mechanism, which does hurt us a little bit, because we can no longer really identify, not that we were having that easy of a time of it to begin with, but this clouds it even more so now. Once these talus start to form in front of the head wall, we're going to have a difficult time determining what's what. As some of you that were here in the beginning will remember, that we had a lot of fracturing going on in this area, and you can see that's pretty much obliterated at this point. Not that it's not happening. It is just the talus that's coming down here is just going to cover basically everything. I think this is probably, this little area up here was one of the access roads to the quarry itself. I don't necessarily think it's separation or anything like that. I do, however, right in this little area here, do see some separation that we really I don't recall seeing before, but this would probably be expected. Cindy had pointed out and was very adamant about it on the telephone when she called, and as I look at it, there is good reason. And particularly here, this, if we recall, we spent a great deal of time talking about this southwest corner in the beginning, which is, albeit buttressing the slide in general. This is one of the main areas that are buttressing that area, however limited it may be. It's definitely a limited area of that, obviously, because we have nothing here. So we don't really have much here to hold anything back. So this is probably, going forward, I would think this is going to show quite a bit of signature going forward as far as when the buttressing will, and it's limited to begin with, but even still, I think this area will show us probably when that will actually fail completely. Yeah, as we can see, and I think this is what Cindy was pointing out. See if we can zoom in a little bit here, get a little better shot at that. Yes. This little area in here, yes, this is starting, I can kind of see or certainly envision this area starting to collapse in bigger portions, no question about it. Otherwise, I mean, they're really, we've had some comments regarding, water in the quarry, stuff like that. Not happening. It's just there is nothing there to indicate any of that. This soil looks extremely dry to me. I don't think any water influx whatsoever. This is just, as been reported many times, this is just a very slow-moving slide, and we're seeing an example of that. Yes, granted, I think the areas of depression up here around the curve are definitely sinking. It would tend to give you an impression of westward movement, and I'm not going to discount that. But at least initially, just because there was nothing here to hold the head wall back, I tend to think that most of the collapses, and again, I kind of agree with the third-party geologist report that we're going to get hundreds or thousands of cubic yards at a shot. And while that may be not what everybody was anticipating with this, I think even those kind of toppling failures, which I think it's basically just parts of this will just essentially tip over. And I think they'll be spectacular in their own right, but I still don't see, a whole lot of evidence of crossing over into rapid failure at this point. Again, I think, and again, we'll go back to what we pointed out here in this graphic from Conforth Consultants that we alluded to earlier in the programs. And as you can see, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious in this area that I'm circling here that you have a great deal of stress building up here. And I think what Cindy had pointed out, I think it's just a response to that stress, but a slow response. I still don't see, a major collapse in this, but yes, this probably, the southwest area will probably be the area that we impact the most. I mean, just to give you an impression of, this is, blow this up a little bit too, but this is, you can kind of see how obscured everything is now. This picture was taken on just about the 10th when the quarry had just shut down. This area over here, if anybody was wondering, and it's probably going to be difficult to see going forward, I think this has nothing to do with drainage or anything of the sort. I think this particular area was just in response probably to things that were going on with the slide, probably the fracturing here and the initial movement. And before anybody blew the whistle to stop operations, I think, they spent a little bit of time getting what they could out of the side here. Doesn't necessarily help overall, but because this eastern face, albeit limited, is one of the buttressing areas. So, but again, everything that's holding this up is extremely limited, and we'll go into that a little more as we go along to other pictures here. But just to get out of the quarry here, so to speak. Some of the questions that have come up, let's address them. One being, the pipe testing that's coming up this week. As best I can tell, this, and it makes sense, this access road up here, and it's difficult to see in some pictures, but in this one I think it's pretty clear. This is probably where the irrigation pipe is, buried probably within the access road itself, meaning that it's probably fairly shallow, pretty easy to get out. I mean, I could be wrong, but as best I can tell, if the media reports are correct and it is 50 feet above Thorp Road, that makes sense. You would need an access road to service it at some point. We shall see. And I'm sure Cindy will have pictures of this coming up as they start dealing with this. But again, I think I've mentioned it in one comment that in the event that this is clogged or it leaks significantly, I have to believe that they're going to shut this down. That's not a good thing going forward for irrigation and farming, no question. But I think it goes in line with the blasting aspects of this particular slide. You do not want to exacerbate this problem more than it already is. And I do believe pushing the envelope on irrigation water would definitely exacerbate this situation more, particularly if a leak would have occurred at night and it were to back up as it stands now. It is certainly, I think this is, we'll get into it a little bit more going forward here, but this, for the most part, is the slide plane that we're dealing with, and as you can see, the water is beneath it. Shouldn't have a major impact. Even minor leaks shouldn't have a major impact. I think one thing we can go to in the third-party report that kind of helps with this, whether or not it may be broken, if you pull this thing up and you go to, sorry about figure 8, I hope you can see this. This is the west face, this lidar image of the west face. The colors are pretty much self-explanatory. The redder it is, the hotter it is, meaning in this case, and we'll get to this in a second, the slip surface that we have been pretty much covering from the beginning of these videos in the span of 3 years, yes, has shown a great deal, and what this is depicting is dilation, meaning spreading apart. And over the span of 3 years, yes, this is all giving along the slide plane and within the area, most of the bottom area, and it makes sense when you look at the pictures, that this area is significantly dilating. The blue ones obviously is negative dilation. Depression makes sense because we see depressions at the top of the quarry. So just to kind of get into the lidar a little bit, but that's basically all it means. There's nothing really that scientific about it per se, but I'm sure, yes, if you want to tear it all apart, you could find other aspects that are a little more scientific, but basically I think this simplifies this enough to show you, and we're going to show you this in a second, the dilation here. But what I wanted to point out is below where the pipe is, we don't see any significant signs of dilation over the last 3 years, which is down around the bottom of this particular image here. This is where the pipe would be. There is some, but to answer the question whether or not it's broken, at least from these images, I think it's fair to say that there's probably a very little chance that it's broken. Could be wrong. We'll see. We'll see when the inspection's over, but again, with that, I think I got to believe that if there is significant issues, they're just going to shut it down. With that in mind, let's go to the west face that we have, and there's been some questions about this that we have been looking at from the beginning, and I just want to emphasize that in the third-party report, and I tend to agree with this, that the lateral buttressing is inferred to be limited due to the movement away from the head scarp and the east lateral scarp, which we just explained, and to the exposure of the slip surface along most of the west and south margins. They're inferred to be limited, and it tends to I tend to agree with that. And as they expanded in that report, is just based on the monitoring that they have interpreted this process to be yielding, meaning it's letting up. That's debatable. As we will see here in the pictures. This picture was taken. These are all Cindy's pictures. Just great work. This was taken on the 16th, and this slip plane has been in existence from the beginning. It's not a new occurrence. It didn't reappear. It's all of this. And there was a question about the S curve here, and there is some debate whether anything here will actually occur because it's not related to, as this whole line is related to the basal slip surface that has been determined. This area up here is not. To what extent that's going to hold things up remains to be seen. Obviously, we've been watching it, but I just wanted to point out that just the differences that we're seeing and just the effects of dilation, spreading and just becoming more open. And I think you'll be able to see that in the pictures that are coming up. Again, this was the 16th. We were pretty much in full mode at this point. But as you can see, pretty clear slip plane here. When we go to just to the 8th, we see a drastic difference. I know I do. And these are the effects of the dilation, meaning that the slide is pushing towards you in the picture. These are not scarps. I may have interpreted these as scarps in the beginning, but they're not. They're actually products of the dilation, meaning it's pushing against it and popping basically the weathered rock, which is pretty much all you see, the real drabby dark brown stuff. All you see is just the weathered rock. Parts of the weathered rock are being popped off of here, and the fresh rock is being exposed along here, a little bit more along here, and to a certain degree, yes, this seam is opening, this slip surface is opening a little bit, but I just harken back to the buttressing on the southwest, this area being the southwest, which is getting most of the stress at this point, no question about it. This area in here, this is on a daily basis. This is popping rock off here, left and right. We go to the 16th. We see even a little more pronounced here, a little more pronounced in this area. And I think kind of for the first time that we're starting to see a little hairline crack in this area where it was kind of obliterated before. Maybe it's just exposed from all the rock fall. But as we can see, I think just as an example, this little boulder portion right there, you go back to the 8th, it's still there. You go back to the 16th, it's still there. Maybe a little higher, but it's still there. So just to point out that although it may appear that movement is more rapid, it doesn't appear. However, we are seeing the effects of the lateral movement from the eastern scarp to the west. Now that does not imply that this slide is going to start slipping to the west. If that's the case, we're going to see this plane start to lip over the other side. Not to say it's not, but it's pretty difficult to get a picture from down at ground level looking up. It could be. And maybe that's what we're actually seeing here. It could be slipping out a little bit. Essentially from the 16th, we see shear fractures here, shear fractures here. We go back and we see the same shear fractures here. So we don't have a lot, really not a whole lot to report in that respect, but this is a good picture to answer another question. There was a question about this particular outcrop, which is what it is. It's probably the youngest of the basalt layers, members, if you will, rock layers on this ridge. And yes, it probably has experienced a little bit of the stress because there's probably not a whole lot of it. But that certainly remains to be seen. But yes, when you probably look at aerials and the like, you might look at this as another crack. No, this is just essentially, maybe we can zoom in without getting too cloudy. Yeah, you can kind of picture it. You can kind of see the just the outcrop pattern. Generally flat line geology here, pretty much throughout the whole ridge here. So nothing really. I think the only thing that might change that, I mean, see this. You zoom this in a little bit from the 16th. Yeah, this kind of separation and rock pinging coming off the edges here is a little. It's a little troublesome. We'll see. We'll just keep an eye on it, and we will go from there.